this October song. I never wrote a song before it. The words and tune are none of my own, but my joys and sorrows for it.
Joe Boyd, then a producer for Elektra, heard of this sensational young band and turned up at the club the very night the police closed it as a fire hazard. They met up at the house the band were living in outside Glasgow.
I had an incredible Sunday afternoon there, and Mike and Robin and Clive played me a lot of songs, and they gave me a tape which they'd made, which I took back to London, and I played it to Jack Holtzman, who was the president of Elektra. And when he heard October Song, it sort of knocked him back a bit, and he said, that's quite a good song. And so I got the green light to do a record as long as it didn't cost more than, I think, £150.
Beside the sea, the brambly briars, in the still of evening.
It was all live, basically. I don't think we did any overdubs, or very, very few. It was just, we just performed the songs and recorded them. And the songs, I just loved the songs. It was just like eating candy, you know, to mix it, to record it. It was just, everyone was juicy and rich and just full of great lyrics and great singing and harmonies and everything. So that was just fun to do.
After the first record, Clive went to Afghanistan, and I thought I'd always wanted to go to Morocco, so I'll go, you know. So we went to Morocco, and I got a variety of instruments there. I intended never to return to Britain, really. I intended to stay there, and I had this idea that I would stay there in some sort of garden under a tree somewhere and study Arabic. That's about as clear as I'd got my plan for life, really, was sit under a tree somewhere and study Arabic flute. I thought that sounded like a great idea, and why not have a go? So I set off to Fez and did just that.
Love paints the car.
Robin returned to pick up again with the ISB. Clive didn't, preferring more traditional folk to the new psychedelic folk rock that Mike and Robin were starting to create. The duo became a trio again when Licorice McKechnie, Licky, joined the band. Soon after, it became a quartet when Rose Simpson joined, appearing on stage with them soon after tuning in, turning on and dropping out of university.
Suddenly this vision appeared in the refectory. I think it was breakfast time, and this walked in, and I mean, everyone's going, ah! And it was Robin, in full sort of flower power, you know, floating through the refectory, sort of incense smells and things dangling and floating, and I didn't really have anything that could possibly dress up in to go along with what he looked like, you know. And the only thing I had was a dressing gown, which I got in a jumble sale in Harrogate, which was actually very handy because it was one of those sort of Indian print things, you know. So I actually did go down to London on the train in my dressing gown. It's the only thing I could think of at the time. It looked all right, you know, it looked quite normal for the time, really.
It was really more in the sense of friendship rather than high degrees of musical ability. One obviously could have hired a couple of musicians, or got together with some musicians that were just musicians, but the notion was to do it in a kind of a friendly, sort of relaxed sort of way.
And somewhere in my mind there is a painting box.
Licorice was always on the road with us. She had this quirky voice that both of them liked. As she became more involved and started playing percussion and things, I think Mike didn't like the idea, in a way, of being outnumbered. Rose told me that, you know, Mike came home one day after Robin had basically said Licorice is going to come on stage on the next tour and be part of the group on stage. You know, Mike came home with a bass and shoved it in Rose's hand and said, "Learn this."
It was like being landed on Mars. I mean, for me, it was literally about, I didn't know any of the people. I had never met people like this. I didn't know what on earth anything was about it. And so you just bumble along and, you know, smile and say hello and do whatever comes to hand. And if someone gives you something, you ring it or hit it or whatever seems the right thing to do with it, and just go along with it, really.
Oh, they understood that you'd leave when your ship comes by. by, and I fully understood.
You can't say, oh, I'm only influenced by kind of Abyssinian music because I listened to an LP of that or something, and I'm not influenced by all the pop music I hear on the wireless when I happen to be sitting in a cafe and there's something playing, or everything that you hear gets in there somewhere.
Sometimes songs are about things that have happened to you, and sometimes songs are about things that you would like to make happen or like to see happen, or they're fantasy songs that you make up. Or else they're songs that just kind of visit themselves upon you like dreams.
My cave was bright with silky gems that gave the stars like diadems. Silver lost, buried gold, such was my home in days of old. Such was my...
There's something extraordinary when you, from my background of listening to these extraordinary lyrics about people being stabbed with a sword of willow, and it was just, what? What? And Robin's singing then was just to die for, from incredible depths to incredible heights. And then he always had a lovely, lovely sense of comedy. I hear my mother calling and I must be on my way. In the middle of it all, he would become music hall and wouldn't take it seriously. And then staggering musicianship. But just as a throwaway.
In the early days, Mike and Robin used to tear each other's songs to bits. I mean, they would be very critical of each other and argue a lot and be very intent on imposing their own stamp on each other's songs. If a Robin song was going to enter the ISB repertoire, by God, Mike was going to make people remember the sitar part. And vice versa. And there was a very, very healthy level of competitiveness I always felt.
The ISB were always about more than just the music, and their next departure was a film. In early 1968, they'd all moved to a commune in Penwern in the west of Wales, and it was around there that Be Glad for the Song Has No Ending was shot. They were joined there by the members of an experimental dance troupe called Stone Monkey, led by Malcolm the Maestro.
It was like the summer was beautiful, and there were kind of aliens in the sky every night, and it was fantastic. And I had a great time that summer. It was very, very hippie-ish, I have to say, and wonderfully sort of mad.